Hey loves, welcome back to another tutorial. Today's video we're going to be learning how to sew this beautiful dress. So if you're interested in this video, please keep on watching and let's get started. So for this tutorial, I'm making use of 3 yards of fabric. This is like a thick cotton material. So I have my sewing tools ready, my tape, my scissors, and my marker. To start this tutorial, we're going to be drafting out the pattern first. So you get your pattern paper ready. First things first, I'm going to start with my zipper allowance. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. So that's what I'm marking now. So once I'm done marking, I'll go ahead and label it zip. So this is an off shoulder and we are going to be minusing 5 inches from it. You can go as deep as 6 inches, but I'm going to make use of 5 inches because I don't want my cleavages to show. So from this point, I'm going to minus 5 inches and then I'll mark my bust point measurement. After my bust point measurement, I'm going to mark my waist point measurement, which is 17 inches. And after that, I'm going to mark the allowance, 1 inch sewing allowance, folding allowance. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and rule a straight line across. So the next step is to mark my chest line. And to get your chest line, you divide your bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'm going to do that and I'm minus 5 inches to whatever I got. I got 8.5 inches. So I'm going to minus 5 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark. That is my chest line. We're also going to use it for our armhole. So I'll go ahead and mark and then I'm going to label everything. So once I'm done, I'll go ahead and label chest line, bust points, waist point, and then my full length. So the next step is to mark my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16 inches divided by 2 is 8. So I'll go ahead and mark 8 inches. But because this is an off shoulder dress, I'm going to minus 1.5 inches from the 8 so that the top will fit very well. So after that, I'll be left with 6.5 inches. So the next step is to input my horizontal measurement. So on my chest line, I am going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches allowance. You can use 1 inch allowance, but I like to use 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark. Then on my bust point, I'm going to mark the same measurements. Bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches allowance. And I'll also do the same on my waistline. So on my waistline, I'll mark the same my waist measurement divided by 4 plus extra 1.5 inches allowance. I will also add 1 inches for my dart intake. So take note of this. I'll mark 1 inches first for my dart intake and then I'll mark 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. Then I'll go ahead and connect. I'm also going to mark the same measurement I marked on my waistline on the full length of the top. So once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and connect the points together. Then for my armhole curve, I'm going to get my curve ruler and then I'll connect all the way from my shoulder line to the chest line measurement. So as you can see, it is very easy. So once I'm done with that, I'll just go ahead and cut off. So the next step is to mark my dart. I'm going to impute my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. And then I'll determine my dart length. I used 6 inches on this pattern, but then I ended up sewing all the way to the chest line because I wanted my dart to like go all the way up there. So, but if you want it yours to be short, you can just use 6 inches or 5 inches. So after that, I'm going to take in half inches on both sides of the line, and then I'm going to connect. So the next step is to adjust my zipper allowance to avoid zipper bulge. So on the top, I'm going to leave it at the 1.5 inches we marked earlier. Then on the waistline, I'm going to mark 1 inches. From that 1 inches, I'll go ahead and connect this all the way to the top. This is to avoid our zip bulging out. So I'll connect it all the way to the top. So once I'm done, I'll go ahead and cut off the excess. So guys, the next video you see is the calculations of our gathers, the other part of the dress. So please pay attention so you understand it very well. So guys, please pay attention to this part. For the second part of the dress, which is the gathers, the second part of the dress, I want to calculate the length and everything I'm going to cut out. So guys, the full length of this dress is 40 inches, as you can see, 40 inches. So remember we already marked our first layer, which is 17 inches, our waist point, the first one that we marked. Remember this is 17 inches, the first one that we marked is 17 inches. So our waist point is 17 inches. Then 40 minus 17 will give us 23 inches. So 40, which is the full length, minus 17, which is our half cut, will give us 23 inches. So this 23 inches is going to make up for the down part of the dress. So for my first layer, I want my first layer to be bigger than the second layer. So my first layer is 13 inches in length. So what I'll do now is I'll minus 13 inches. Sorry, I'll minus 13 inches, yes, from 23 inches, which is the full length of the second part. So 23 inches minus 13 inches will give us 10 inches. So 10 inches will now be my second layer. So second layer equals to 10 inches. And I'll add 1 each allowance for the joining. So the first layer will now be 14 inches. Second layer will now be 11 inches because of the allowance that we added. So I hope you guys understand. So guys, we are done calculating the length. So now what we are calculating here is the round measurement to determine the amount of fabric to cut out. So my waist measurement is 34 inches. 34 inches is my waist measurement. So the first layer is going to be 34 inches times 2 equals to 68 inches. So I'm going to cut out 68 inches fabric for the first layer. Then the second layer is 68 inches times 2, which is 136 inches. So for my second layer, I'm going to cut out 136 inches. I hope you guys understand. I'll go again. The waist measurement I'm working with is 34 inches. So the first layer is going to be 14 inches in length, but the width is going to be 34 inches times 2. My waist measurement times 2, because we are going to gather it so that we can have enough fabric. If you want to gather more, you can times it by 3, by 4, depending on the amount of fabric you are using. But for my own, I'm using 34 inches times 2, which will give us 68 inches. So for the second layer, we are going to times 68 inches times 2, which is 136 inches. So I'll cut out 136 inches for the second layer. I hope you understand. And then I'll go ahead and place my pattern paper on the fabric to cut out my back piece. So once I'm done cutting, I'll go ahead and cut the front piece. Always remember to notch your darts. So after cutting the back, I'll go ahead and cut the front piece. I'm using the same pattern to cut out both the front and the back. So in that case, when I get to the front, I'm going to fold in the zip allowance. Remember to fold in the zip allowance if you're using the same pattern for both front and back. So I'll place carefully and then I'm going to cut. The next step is to cut out our sleeve, and the sleeve we are cutting is a puffy sleeve. So our fabric is going to be on fold, and then I'm going to mark 15 inches. It is going to be on fold. So when I open it up, we are going to have 30 inches. So for the length, I'm going to mark 14 inches, and this includes both the sewing allowance because I'm going to fold the edges so I can pass my rubber. After that, I'm going to get my pattern paper to cut out the exact armhole that we have. So I'm just going to mark it and then I'm going to cut out. Once I'm done cutting, I'm going to go ahead and cut for the other sleeve and then I'll just repeat the process. So that's all we have for our sleeve. I'll just set it aside. So as you can see, I've sewn in my dart for both the front and the back, and I've also piped my neckline, just as you can see. The next thing for me to do is to join both the front and the back together the way I am going to sew it. I'll just carefully arrange it together. So I'm also still going to add my zipper. So I've also added rubber to my sleeves as well. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to pin everything together the way I am going to sew it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it together just like you see me doing. After that, I'll go over to my sewing machine and I'll sew it. So now I head over to my sewing machine and then I'll secure it with the sewing allowance that we left earlier. So guys, I'm done sewing it and this is what we have. I'm yet to add my zipper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is measure round the waist to make sure it corresponds to our waist measurement. So I'll go ahead and measure all round and know what we got. I actually got 35 inches and my waist measurement is 34 inches. But I'll leave it like that so it will not be too tight on me. So now I'm working on the lower part of the dress. This is the first layer of fabric that I cut out for my first layer, and this is just my waist measurement times 2. So it is double of my waist measurements, and I'm going to go ahead and gather it. The second layer is also here as well, and we are going to multiply it by 2 of what we have the first layer. The first layer is 68 inches. The second layer is now going to be 68 inches times 2, which is 136 inches. So I'll go ahead and gather it off camera and I'll show you guys. So I am done with the gathers and this is what it looks like. It's looking so beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and get the first part of this dress, which is the half cut, and then I'm going to join it to the waist of this the gathers. I'm going to join it together like so. So I'm just going to turn it over and then go over to my sewing machine and secure it. After which I'll now add my zipper. So guys, I've gone ahead to join everything together and it's looking so pretty. We are coming to the end of this tutorial. If you've not subscribed to our channel, kindly subscribe and turn on your post notifications. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.